Everybody, we'll get started. It's a busy day. Not so much here because half our dockets disappeared in the last 15 minutes, but elsewhere on campus, and we've got members that need to go somewhere. So I guess the first thing we need to do so we can get these proxies squared away is go ahead and call the roll, right? All right then, and anybody who needs to absent themselves for business back in the Pocahontas building, please leave your proxies. So welcome to the courts meeting. All right, let's not flood in here, okay? We're not doing that on purpose. Welcome to the Committee on Local Government. What I'm going to do right now is get the committee to introduce itself, those of us that have managed to navigate the lines and get in here. We'll start down on the far left with Amanda Chase. First time you'll hear far left and Amanda Chase in the same sentence. And
Amen.
Everybody to introduce themselves.
Good morning, everyone. Virginia State Senator Amanda Chase, representing the 11th Senatorial District, which includes most of Chesterfield, all of Colonial Heights, and all of Amelia. And it's great to be here with you all today.
Good morning. I'm Jen Kiggins. I'm the new state senator from the 7th District from Virginia Beach and Norfolk, and I'm very, very happy to be here.
Todd Billion, 40th Senate District, half of Southwest Virginia.
Bill DeSteff, Virginia Beach, and for anyone who had to stand in line an exorbitant amount of time, I apologize to you. I have people testifying on other bills who have an hour and a half to 2 hour wait, so as soon as I chime out of here, I've got to go over there and take everything by for the day.
Good morning. I'm Emmett Hanger, a senator from the 24th District from up in the Shenandoah Valley, Augusta County. I represent some areas also north of Charlottesville.
Linwood Lewis, I'm the 6th Senate District, 2 counties on Virginia's eastern shore, half the city of Norfolk, 1 precinct in Virginia Beach, Matthews County on the Middle Peninsula.
Good morning. I'm Janet Howell. I represent the 32nd District, which is parts of Fairfax and Arlington counties.
Good morning. I'm Senator Barbara Favola, and I represent the 31st Senate District. I have a large portion of Arlington, parts of Fairfax, the McLean portion, and I also have Great Falls, which is in Fairfax, and 6 precincts in Loudoun. So I'm happy to be here.
Good morning. I'm Jeremy McPike, Senator for the 29th Senate District, representing Prince William, Manassas, and Manassas Park, and happy Monday.
Good morning. I'm Senator Spruill, 5th District. I'm statewide. Next to me is Joe Morrissey from, I don't know what district it is, but he represents Petersburg, Richmond, Henrico County, and Dinwiddie.
Good morning. I'm John Bell. I represent the 13th District. I can't believe I have to follow that. Good morning to all of you. My district's in Loudoun, Prince William County. Thanks for your patience in getting here, and welcome to the Capitol.
Good morning. I'm Ghazala Hashmi, newly elected senator for District 10, which represents parts of Chesterfield County as well as Richmond City and all of Powhatan.
We're going to do some quick housekeeping, and then we have a presentation by Eldon James from the Virginia Association of American Planning Association. So, but first, and in case anybody's here for these following bills, they're going to be carried over at the request of the patrons. I'm going to go Senate Bill 193, Senate Bill 198, Senate Bill 314, Senate Bill 329, Senate Bill 360, Senate Bill 419. And possibly, although don't want to include that in this block, possibly Senator Surville 638, but I'm waiting to hear from him on that. So we're going to vote on these in block to carry them over. That does not require a recorded vote, and so we'll accept a motion to carry these over until next week.
So moved. Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. All those bills are carried over to our next meeting. We'll also have a couple of bills. We'll take them up as we get to them that are requested. The patrons have requested that they be stricken. So with that, Mr. James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for a few moments of your time to welcome you to the first meeting of Senate Local Government and to say in front of you, you have a copy of the latest edition of what we refer to as the toolkit. It is a summary of all the land use planning legislation, the land use planning laws in Virginia. It is, the planners across Virginia use it as a handbook, quick reference. It's very helpful with the public, and we make it available to you each year. We update it after each legislative session. It has a November 2019 date. It is up to date through your last General Assembly session. And the planners in Virginia, both private sector and public, wish you the best of luck in this session, and you'll be hearing from us as we go along. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, with that, we'll start our business. It appears that we have only one patron here with us that's not a member of the committee, and that looks to be Senator Reeves. Senator Reeves, you want to do your 465?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a by request bill from Albemarle County, and it is SB 465. And what it does is it allows, the current code allows localities to donate property and money to volunteer firefighting and emergency service providers. A 2007 amendment to this section enabled localities to donate in-kind resources for events sponsored by donors. So what this is going to do is allow localities to help out other 501c3s for some of those that are in their districts. I'll give you an example of one, not just from Albemarle County, but one that we're working on, and many of you know we've been working on for years, is the Veterans Treatment Court. And some of the challenge we have there is resources, and we only have enough resources, at least in the regional one we set up with Judge Regal, to have at max 7 veterans in that docket at any one time. So this would allow localities the opportunity to be able to cross-level resources to it. That's the rationale behind the bill. Like I said, it was brought to me by Albemarle County, and they'd like to see the bill pass.
Do you have anybody speak in favor of the bill?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. David Blunt on behalf of Albemarle County. If you look at the changes on line 70 to 73, really just trying to make I guess push the ball a little bit farther down the road, because the donations, for purposes of the section, donations relates to events. And they've got other things that they're looking to do, the county that is, for the volunteer organizations that are not related to events. It's more the back office kind of things related to what you see there in the bill with, you know, some of the support that they could provide. So that's what they're really trying to do.
Anybody else want to speak in favor of the bill? Anybody opposed to the bill? All right, we have a motion to report and a second. We'll open up the roll. All those in favor, aye. All those opposed, no.
Yeas 13, nays 0.
The bill passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, let's see what we have next. We have no patrons. Wow. What bill is, what number is that? All right, Senator Deeds is asked. He's indisposed, as you might imagine, this morning, and Senate Bill 292. He has requested there's a representative from Albemarle that can present the bill for him. You didn't know that, did you?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members
Morning.
of the board.
State your name, please.
Anthony Bissett on behalf of Albemarle County. I'm here mainly to answer questions that the committee may have. However, I do have some prepared remarks on it if Chair would allow. Dear Chairman, Lewis, Senators, good morning. My name is Anthony Bissett. I'm with the Albemarle County Attorney's Office. I represent the General Registrar and the Board of Elections for Albemarle County. I'm here to primarily answer any questions you have. However, I do have a few remarks. First, as background, until 1986, the Virginia Constitution, as well as Virginia Code 24-119, forbade officers of election from holding any other elective office or any office of profit or trust. But in 1986, the Constitution and that section of the code were amended to remove that prohibition. However, in a different part of the code having to do with boards of zoning appeals, that section of the code, which is 15.2.2308, still forbids members of a board of zoning appeals from holding any public office in the same locality. Because an officer of elections is still a public officer, according to standing attorney general opinions, it winds up being inconsistent for somebody to serve both as a member, or excuse me, as a member of the Board of Zoning Appeals and as an officer of elections. We have a longstanding public servant who has been working as an officer of election and has been serving on our Board of Zoning Appeals, but the service is inconsistent, and the 1986 change to the Constitution and to the statute for officers of election suggests that it's not the intention of the legislature that it be inconsistent for people to serve as both a officer of election and in other roles.
Then let me use Chesapeake for an example. In Chesapeake, for example, the planning commission is real big in Chesapeake because we have a lot of rural, the way you pronounce that word, rural area, Chesapeake. So the planning commission in Chesapeake is very powerful, and they are appointed by council. So are you saying they could be on the planning commission and still run for city council too?
No, this change is exclusive, would be exclusive to the Board of Zoning Appeals, first of all, and second, it would only exempt officers of election. So because the 1986 change to the Constitution suggests that it's the legislative intent that one be able to serve as an officer of election and in other areas, this would allow officers of election to serve specifically on boards of zoning appeals. No other, it wouldn't open up service in inconsistent local offices otherwise.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Howe.
Just to make sure I remember correctly the terminology, an officer of elections is one of the people who on election day sits in a precinct and checks people off? Or is it broader than that?
It is somewhat broader than that, but that is chiefly what it is. For more questions on the work of an officer of elections, I'd like to turn over to the County of Albemarle's chairman of the Board of Elections, Jim Heilman.
Sure. Mr. Heilman?
Yeah, officers of election are the people that check people in, make sure you get your ballot into the scanning machine correctly, and pass out I voted stickers. So passing out I voted stickers and serving on the Board of Zoning Appeals, there doesn't seem to be a conflict of interest there, and we really need your support for this because we don't want to lose a very good officer of election that we have now. And I am sure there are other localities in the state that have officers of election that probably are on boards of zoning appeals, and they just don't know this one line embedded in 15.2308. So we would appreciate your support.
Mr. Chairman.
Who's that? Oh, Senator Bell.
Mr. Chairman, question. Is there a minimum number of election officers who are on site at each precinct location throughout the day?
The minimum, I believe, in the code is 3, but I know very few polling places that could get by with 3 people. There may be a few in Highland County, but not much of anywhere else.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the committee?
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yep.
I just
Senator
have
Chase.
one quick question. I was just trying to think of any types of conflict of interest that might potentially come up regarding zoning issues. A lot of times we'll have referendums or additional questions on election day. I don't know if some of those have to do with zoning issues, but they potentially could. Is there anyone that can speak to that issue if that has ever come up before, a zoning issue on a referendum or a constitutional amendment?
I've been working either on the electoral board or as the registrar since 1987, and I can't remember ever having a constitutional amendment or question on a ballot that had to do with specifically with zoning issues. But perhaps someone else can.
All right, Senator Chase, anything else? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, are you ready for a motion or?
Sure, but let's just take one more round around the committee. Anybody else have any questions on the committee? And let me see if anybody by chance would want to speak against the bill. Okay, good enough. Now we're ready.
Okay, well, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move that we report the bill. I do not see any potential conflict of interest in allowing a volunteer to hold both of those responsibilities. So I move that we report the bill.
Second. All right. Motion is to report the bill and duly seconded. I'll open the vote.
Yeas 12, nays 1.
Bill passes. Let's see, who else do we have here? Senator Boysko. Come on down.
Thank you very much, sir. I have two bills. SB 647 is the first one, dealing with zoning development approvals.
Okay.
Ready? Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, today I present SB 647, which will amend Virginia Code 15.2-2286A2 that will add language to codify what is referred to as vested rights in Virginia land use law. The recent Supreme Court of Virginia decision of Bragg Hill Corporation versus City of Fredericksburg, while approving the city's zoning of annexed properties, discussed the nature of vested rights for properties that are incorporated into a neighboring jurisdiction via annexation. And it stated a vested right is in a land use is a property right which is created and protected by law, and the vested rights protected a landowner's right to develop a specific project under the existing conditions and allowing continuation of the non-conforming use when that zoning designation is amended or changed. I am doing this on behalf of the town of Leesburg. I have speakers here. We have worked with them because the town of Leesburg and Loudoun County are in the process of incorporating a commercial area of Loudoun County called Compass Creek by a voluntary boundary line agreement. The Compass Creek area is subject to BLA and is owned primarily by 3 to 4 property owners who obtained prior development approvals from Loudoun County. The property owners agreed to the incorporation by the town and have given written consent to the town and Loudoun County. But one of the conditions of their consent is that the town allow them to develop the land according to the prior Loudoun County approvals. I have members from the town of Leesburg here, including Keith Markle, and I hope it's the pleasure of the committee to report out 647 to the Senate floor.
Okay, let's hear from your witnesses before we
Thank
open
you.
it up for questions.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Betsy Arnett. I'm the Public Information Officer for the town of Leesburg. As Senator Boysko has explained, the town of Leesburg is in the process of bringing several properties into the town limits through a voluntary boundary line adjustment with the county. And this is it's a specific situation that usually when we bring property into the town, it's either already developed or it's vacant. But in this case, this property is actually under development. They have approved plans. And we have amended our zoning ordinance to clarify that that they will be able to develop under their existing approvals, and our zoning administrator will administer those approvals. However, we're asking for this amendment because the state code doesn't say specifically that we can do this, and we want to avoid any possible future legal challenge to these zoning approvals. And so we're just asking that be allowed that this is codified in the state code. The amendment is permissive. It does not require localities to do this. It simply gives us the ability to do that and makes it crystal clear that we have the legal authority to do this. Thank you.
Yep. Senator Sproul.
This can't be done without putting in the code. If you can do it now, well, I'm trying to find out why was the need to put it in the code if you can do it. Why you need to put it in the code?
The reason that we're asking for this is simply to clarify, to make it crystal clear, to avoid any future challenges. So if the property were to change hands and a future property owner were to say, no, we don't want to develop it under this zoning, and you didn't have the right to do this, that then we would avoid that situation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anybody else on the committee? Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you agree that this change would add clarity for the constituents of that jurisdiction as well? Because oftentimes when property is acquired, citizens want to get involved in zoning decisions, et cetera, and it could reopen a whole new kettle of fish. So you're trying to, I
Yes,
think,
ma'am. We're just trying to clarify,
articulate
make it
a
crystal
status
clear
quo.
what zoning applies where.
Okay.
Anybody else on the committee? Do you have anybody else to speak in favor of the bill? Or is there anybody here who wants to speak in opposition to the bill? Anybody?
Second.
Have a motion to report duly seconded. We'll open up the vote. Congratulations, Senator Boyce-Cobb.
Thank you so much. The next bill that I have is SB 649 regarding to the collection of town taxes by a county. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, today I present SB 649, which will allow Fairfax County to enter into agreements with towns in the county so to collect town taxes and county taxes simultaneously. This bill was filed at the request of the town of Herndon, and I have worked extensively with the legal staff of Fairfax County, the town of Herndon, and Loudoun County to find a solution. This bill enables localities with an urban county executive form of government, of which Fairfax County is the only county in Virginia with this form. This legislation will allow residential taxpayers to pay a singular entity instead of the two that perform the same commodity function. It will assist residents who qualify for town tax exemptions to receive their refunds at a quicker rate, since Fairfax County would be issuing them directly. In addition, the convenience for taxpayer would be in the conjunction with their mortgage companies paying one entity to the taxpayer would only have to pay one convenience fee. The legislation has been vetted by the town of Herndon, Fairfax, and Loudoun counties, VACO, and VML. I have Jenny Tripoli from the town of Herndon here today to speak on behalf of the town. I'm carrying this at their request. I hope it's the pleasure of the committee to report SB 649 to the Senate. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you very much for your consideration of this bill. This is fundamentally an efficiency question for our taxpayers. Fairfax County assesses for the county residents, and the town residents are also county residents. So they would get, like the senator said, one bill, pay one place. The mortgage companies have to deal with one entity. And then we would have an agreement with the county about compensation to them for the extra work. And the timing of the cash flows. Again, this is permissive. It's a may, not a shall, so it would not require other towns who do not wish to participate in this to do so. And I'm really very excited about this, and I hope that it goes through.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else speak in favor of the bill? Anybody who's opposed to the bill? Any questions from the committee? Okay, let's do something then.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we report Senate Bill 649.
I second. All right, there we go. Motion made to report and seconded. Let's open her up.
Yeas 13, nays 0.
Knocked another one out of the park, Senator Boyce-Cobb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Yes, ma'am. All right, looks like we have, looks like we have Senator Stewart here. And I know you've got one bill that you want to take some action on.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Good morning, members of the committee. I'd like to strike Senate Bill 152 first, please.
All right, and I believe we need a motion and a recorded vote on that, so. All right, we have a motion and a second. Let's open up the vote. All right, Senate Bill 152 is stricken at the request of the patron. And then you have another bill before us too, I believe, Senator Stewart.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 225, and I do have some folks here that I want to speak. Mr. Chairman, this bill simply authorizes a locality by ordinance to require vegetation be removed from within 5 feet of the right-of-way. And if the private landowner does not do that, then the county can do it, and of course they would bill the person for doing that. The genesis of this bill, it comes from and is written by a group of very astute and very impressive young people in Stafford County who lost their friend, a young lady, to a horrible and tragic car accident. And in this particular case, she was turning out onto Kellogg Mill Road in Stafford County. She couldn't see because of the vegetation blocking her view, and a tractor trailer literally ran over top of her, and it was just horrific, and I don't know any other way to say it. And so these young people lobbied me and others, and they wrote this themselves, and I think it's very impressive what they've done. And I hope that you all support it, but I first would like for them to have the opportunity to come and address this committee, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
Where are my folks? Come on up. How are you?
Could you tell us your name and...
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Isabella Mata, and I am a senior at Colonial Forge High School in Stafford County. I appear before you on my own behalf, but also on behalf of a community action committee begun in Stafford County known as Changing Stafford's Roads, or CSR for short. On behalf of Changing Stafford's Roads, I would like to formally express our gratitude for the opportunity to appear before you today. I also have other copies of my speech as well. I'd like to start off by explaining how Changing Stafford's Roads began. Last spring, May 16th, began like any other day for most students at Colonial Forge, but for one of our close friends, it was a very special day. It was Helen Wing's 17th birthday. She had just finished celebrating with her friends, swimming at Stafford's Able Lake, and was exiting the Lake Boat Ramp Road, waiting to turn left onto Kellogg Mill Road. Like many students at Colonial Forge and other high schools in the county, Helen was aware of how dangerous Stafford back roads could be. As a driver, she had a reputation for being very cautious. She always paused a little bit before going into an intersection or just going a little bit underneath the speed limit. Yet her extra caution did not save her that day. Because of an overgrowth of vegetation preventing her from viewing oncoming traffic, Helen Wing's car was struck by an oncoming loaded dump truck as she attempted to turn left onto Kellogg Mill Road. She was killed upon impact. Several minutes after her car was struck, my mom and I drove by the accident. I didn't know it was her car, and I didn't know anyone was killed. As we passed the accident, I stared out the window, wondering if we should pull over and join the other vehicles and drivers who had stopped to check and make sure everyone was okay. But we decided it was too dangerous to pull over, even to help, as blind curves led down to the intersection at the bottom of two steep hills. So we prayed for all involved in the car wreck as we passed, and left as the ambulance whistles grew louder. 2 hours later, I got the call that it was Helen killed in the crash. In the time following the accident, I was overcome by grief, but as the days passed, my grief turned into anger and indignation. Kellogg Mill Road, like so many other secondary roads in the state of Virginia, was locally known to be dangerous. In training for my driver's license, driving on the back roads of Stafford County was the equivalent challenge to driving on Interstate 95. I learned that many of my friends who were also close to Helen felt the same way, and we were moved to do something constructive with our grief. Thus, Changing Stafford's Roads was formed. In a matter of weeks after the accident, we created surveys identifying the dangerous conditions in roads of Stafford County and presented our findings to the local Stafford Board of Supervisors. Since then, and for the past 8 months, Changing Stafford's Roads has been working and advocating for proactive secondary road maintenance and safety in Stafford County. But we are here today because we understand that car crashes, like Helen's that are caused by an overgrowth of vegetation impeding a driver's line of sight, can be prevented and do not just occur in Stafford, but across the state of Virginia. We should be monitoring and reviewing these car wrecks, such as Helen's, analyzing their causes, and working together to find solutions. Though the pain of Helen's death and the time lost to grief and suffering can never be reversed, passing this bill will allow for a much happier ending to the story, and the story of others like Helen's. An ending proving that Helen Wing did not die in vain. An ending where a young man aspiring to be a military officer isn't killed by an oncoming vehicle. An ending where a young girl isn't dead after getting ice cream with her friends because of too tight of a curve. An ending where countless families and friends are shielded from the intense suffering, insurance bills, and emptiness that comes with a loved one being killed in a car crash. As we present our testimonies to you today, I urge you, on behalf of Changing Stafford's Roads, and families all over the state who know the pain of losing a loved one to a car crash, to pass this bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You tell us your name.
Mr. Chairman and esteemed members of the committee, my name is Rebecca Chung, and I am in the 12th grade at Colonial Forge High School in Stafford County. And I also represent the organization Changing Stafford's Roads. As our organization grew, we learned from people in our community and legislators that we talked to that everyone had their own Helen story. A story about a boy or a girl taken too soon. Contrary to popular belief, not all of these deaths are due to inexperience, recklessness, or distractions, but a rather unforeseeable danger on the road. But these dangers are not altogether unforeseeable. We know that there is vegetation that can be cleared and lines of sight that can be improved. According to the DMV Highway Safety Office report from January 1st through December 31st of 2018, an average of 2.2 lives are lost per day because of car accidents. That is 803 Helen stories per year. The most recent statistic released by the DMV states that there were 26 teen driver fatalities in Virginia in 2018. While that number is a decrease of 10.3% from 2017, there were still 819 deaths in 2018 that were not caused by alcohol, speeding, or lack of restraint. Fatal car accidents don't only affect young drivers, and our situation is not an isolated incident. We compiled research of all of your districts, and in total, you've had 285 deaths due to car accidents between January 1st and December 31st of 2018. Stafford County has countless back roads that have no shoulder, severely overgrown vegetation, tight corners, and a host of other safety issues, as do many counties throughout our state. We recognize that not all of these problems can be resolved overnight, but vegetation can. Helen's accident site was cleared the night after we chose to speak up. The bill, which we are asking you to pass, will allow counties to address these roadway problems. But even then, VDOT's appearance was the only reason that the county could allow the clearing of vegetation. VDOT reported that the site of the accident was cleared twice a year, quote by Lynn Keenan. VDOT's Maintenance Division Best Practice Manual, Section 11.2.2, states that they ensure related safety requirements are met, but not including to clearing zone site distance requirements. VDOT lists that in service levels B, C, and D, that the maintenance of intersection site distance shall take precedent over any service levels. This did not occur in the instance of Helen's accident. However, in these standards, which were not clearly upheld, they do not clear vegetation without a direct complaint for a specific area. But how many drivers routinely take time from their busy schedules to report a dangerous vegetation? How many people are willing to stay on hold just for VDOT to file their claim, then wait an average of 4 months for the obstruction to be cleared, sometimes longer? VDOT states that they are ensuring efficient management of wood and vegetation within the right-of-way. While their work is helpful and the primary way of getting things done in Virginia, they are currently working from highway to secondary roads, but 81.7% of accidents occur on non-interstate roads. About 1 million people live in rural areas, which are where secondary roads are the main roads taken by drivers. Secondary roads have shown significantly higher crash rates than other road systems. For rural highways, crashes tend to increase with the higher speed differential, which occurred in Helen's accident. But the ultimate contributor was the overgrown vegetation requiring Helen to hold her breath as she made that dangerous turn. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, my name is David Sousa, and I'm a senior at Colonial Forge High School from Stafford County. I also represent the organization Changing Stafford's Roads, and I wish to address why Senate Bill 225 should be passed from more of a legal perspective. Senate Bill 225, or Helen's Law, is a bill designed to address a major public safety concern across the Commonwealth: line-of-sight obstructions on public right-of-ways. As previously stated, fatal car accidents occur all across the Commonwealth, from the rural backroads of Southwest Virginia to the densely populated Richmond, Hampton Roads areas. While we could speculate how many of those could have been prevented by clearing line-of-sight obstructions, it may be too great for us to bear, and we have time to take action. Under the Dillon Rule, localities must seek the Commonwealth's approval to take any action not specifically granted to them under the Code of Virginia. The practice of the Dillon Rule thereby provides the necessity for Senate Bill 225 to be introduced. If this bill is passed, localities will have the opportunity to utilize the Department of Transportation or a private contractor to remove that vegetation that causes a line-of-sight obstruction along public right-of-ways. It is important to note that funding for such removals will come from the locality's budget and not from the state, removing the burden from the Commonwealth. This bill will codify the ability of a locality to utilize a private contractor to remove such vegetation, which again, under the Dillon Rule practice, makes this option legal. Should this bill be passed, counties such as our home of Stafford will utilize the newly coded 15.2-2009.1 and 15.2-2011 to remove vegetation along secondary roads that cause fatalities such as Helen Wangs. Senate Bill 225 has minimal conflict with the existing statutes and provides an option and not another unfunded mandate. We urge that you pass Senate Bill 225 and report to the Senate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I think that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Let me ask you this, and I'm woefully ignorant on this, and I think your speakers probably covered it, but what's VDOT's current level of responsibility with this stuff?
They have the responsibility. The problem is VDOT is overworked in many respects. And so if you notice this situation, you would call VDOT and they would get there as soon as they could.
Right.
It was interesting on this road, and I don't know the exact statistics on this, but according to VDOT, prior to this fatal crash, they'd received 46 service requests from drivers since the beginning of the year for issues in that area. And they had specifically received 5 requests for branches and limbs blocking sight of you prior to this. So this is not supposed to be disparaging towards VDOT. I think VDOT does an excellent job in the area that I represent, and they do the best that they can. And if you call them, certainly I have constituents call me all the time and say, Richard, we've got a problem on such and such a road and we need it cleared. And when my office calls them, they get it done. But there's a lot to do. And so these young folks came up with this idea to try to help get it done.
Questions from the committee? Senator Favola.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it's clear in this drafting, and I commend the young people who are here and took time to get involved in government to make a difference. So thank you very much. It's clear in the drafting that property owners would only be responsible for the trees and limbs that are on their property. They may be hanging over the right-of-way, but they're physically the roots are on their property. So I guess the ordinance, and this would be up for the Board of Supervisors to decide, would have to identify things such as how high or how tall, or at what point does the greenery obstruct a view, and how many times must the county inform the landowner before the landowner is actually held accountable for, and will there be fines attached to this? Did you understand this authority to provide the local government with enough local authority to apply a fine or some kind of penalty?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think there's a provision for a fine, but I think the way it reads, they can adopt the ordinance and do it and then send a bill like you do other things in the community. We typically do that.
Mr. Chairman, follow up.
Senator Favola.
The only reason I asked about whether a fine would be included is because, I guess if there's some kind of fee structure and the county recovers dollars that they had to spend doing the work that the property owner was supposed to do, it might be quicker if the property owner does it. But So I think this is the right first step. You might be back to it. You might be back before us next year, asking for additional authority on the
Mr. Chairman,
penalty.
Senator Favola, I suspect this bill has a long way to travel. I think it's a great idea, and they did an outstanding job. I know that there will be some folks that are concerned about how it's drafted in the language, but I hope that we can still move this bill along, and we can work all those kinks out as we go through the process. There's newly elected Delegate Cole has the very same bill on the House, and we're hoping to meet and come up with something that helps. The most important thing is I have been so impressed by these young people getting together on behalf of Helen's Law and working so hard. I hope that at the end of the day we can come up with something that they can take back home.
Anybody else? Any questions? Senator Bell.
Mr. Chairman, I think this is a good bill. I commend the students and the Friends of Helen for coming here today. The question I have is I've been a part of several charitable organizations where we've had elderly people who have issues with their yards, their property, trees, etc., and they may not have the financial means to have them removed. Are there going to be any kind of efforts to make sure that there could be volunteer organizations involved to help folks like that who may not be able to pay for this, but also, frankly, would probably be happy to have these obstructions removed?
Mr. Chairman, I frankly did not anticipate that, but I think it's a fantastic idea. So I think it's something that we should discuss with the county to organize that.
They've done it. These kids have done a fantastic job, as everybody I think has said, and I'm going to certainly support the bill because it is a process and it'll move along and get better as it goes, which is the way this system ideally is designed to work. But as a brilliant trial lawyer, Senator Stewart, let me ask you. What are we doing? Are we doing anything with?
Is there another Stewart in the room?
Are we doing anything with establishing a new cause of action or a new level of liability for these property owners?
Potentially. Mm-hmm.
But it is a process, right?
Maybe we should put an immunity provision in here. Yeah. From one trial lawyer to another. Maybe there should be.
Senator Servo wouldn't like that.
You say that. This Senator Servo will have a chance at this on the floor. Right?
Mr. Chairman.
I suspect we'll see immunity provisions.
Senator Favola.
I think the better question is, though, the local government would have the authority, I would believe, to establish an immunity clause under this if they so chose. Or would they not?
That would have to come from the General Assembly.
They would have to have our enabling legislation.
Have to come from the General Assembly, yes.
Senator Spruill.
Chairman, to me, I have to support this bill. In my neighborhood, 3 times I went to make a left turn, and my neighbor has a pretty trees, whatever you call them, a left turn, and I looked to my right, and for 2 times I almost hit over into a car. It was my fault. And the 3rd time, I said, damn, I knew I looked there, but I did not. And the guy stopped me, and I got out, and I apologized. So I said to myself, something wrong. So I went to my neighbor on the corner and said, listen, for 3 times now. And I said, this is the good eye. This was not too well. I know I did. And I asked him, I said, will you please? And what he did, he removed it. And I thanked him for it. So I'm saying that what would have happened had I ran into someone, because I know, Mr. Chairman, I know for a fact I looked both ways. And that 3rd time, and it was my fault. And I came out there in front of that car. So I asked my neighbor, would he please do something about it? He cut it down. So I'm for this thing. I don't care who paid for it. To me, if you own the property and it's on your property and it's blocking the view for someone to come out, then you should either cut it down or have something removed. I'm supporting this bill, sir. Thank you so much.
Anybody else on the committee? Senator McPike.
Mr. Chairman, I'd say to the patron that the presentation was absolutely outstanding. A lot of thought was put into it, so congratulations. I think there's been wouldn't you agree that I think there's also been some concern on the transfer of liability as well as quasi-taking. I'm not sure there is some, I think I have some concern. There are some roadways that absolutely need to be maintained, but you could be talking about removing 15, 20 very large trees at some point based on this parameter of 5 feet. Depending on who makes that call, that could be tens of thousands of dollars very easily. And I do have concern about the notice of time provision of, I mean, sometimes they're intertwined with fencing, many other complicated factors with it. So I'm going to put an R36 and abstain just to flag it as it goes through, so we don't lose sight of some of the other things that I think need to occur with this bill before it passes the General Assembly.
I will look forward to your help with amendments.
Senator Favola.
One last comment. Thank you for your generosity, Mr. Chairman. This does have to go through a very rigorous public comment and review process, though, at the local level, because there are administrative laws. As you know, Senator Stewart, there are administrative codes on how local governments can conduct their business and adopt ordinances. So some of these issues should get robust conversation. I do think you're going to be back before us with tweaks next year. So that's the one thing that gives me some comfort. I'm going to vote for this bill, but I do appreciate the comments that have been raised.
And Mr. Chairman, to Senator Favola's point, in order to enact an ordinance like this, there'd have to be a public hearing which has to be advertised in a newspaper of general circulation in the community for at least 2 weeks prior to the date. People get to come in and comment. This gives the parameter, and the specific locality could adopt whatever they want to adopt to lessen Senator McPike's concerns, for example. So it has a long way to go yet. It's exactly right.
Senator Stewart, do you want to take a whack at that immunity thing now, or do you want to pass it out of here with the understanding that you'll deal with it on the floor, or how would you like to do that? Because I think we probably do need to deal with it.
Let's come up with an amendment on the floor.
Sure, fine.
Move the report.
Second.
Motion is to report, duly seconded. We'll open up the roll. Bill passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Thank you, kids.
All right, good job. Good job.
Senator Locke, we have a patron. Oh, happy day.
Hope you're friendlier than judiciary. Okay.
Senator Locke, you've got 340, I think, right?
Let's see, what do I have? Let's see. Yeah, let's start with 340.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 340 authorizes any locality within Planning District 23 or that has a population of at least 75,000 to include provisions for cutting overgrown shrubs, trees, and other such vegetation in an ordinance requiring certain landowners to cut the grass, weeds, and other foreign growth on certain property. Virginia Code 15.2-901 currently allows local governments to regulate only certain types of overgrown vegetation. This leaves a gap in state authority, which prevents local governments from regulating overgrown trees, shrubs, and other vegetation that cannot be classified as foreign growth because it is indigenous to the area. This lack of authority results in the continuing negative presence of overgrown trees, shrubs, and vegetation on private properties. Overgrown vegetation is both unsightly in appearance and poses a safety risk in that it reduces sight lines from the street to view primary structures on the property. Without eyes on the street, code enforcement and public safety officials have difficulty observing conditions that may be a danger or public nuisance to the community. This bill provides a local option for localities within Planning District 23 or that have a population of at least 75,000 persons to have an ordinance regulating overgrown trees and shrubs. And I have the Mayor of Hampton here to speak on this legislation.
Absolutely. Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, to members of the committee, good morning to you. I'm Donnie Tuck, Mayor of the City of Hampton, Virginia. and I'm here to ask your consideration and support of Senate Bill 340. We have properties in our city that are both occupied and unoccupied that have this overgrowth vegetation that gives it the appearance of being unkept. And we get complaints from residents because it also gives the community the same sense of being unkept. And we actually have no provisions which to try and regulate this. We recognize that there are different perspectives from rural communities as well as urban communities, whereas in rural communities it might be something that's still more sightly, but in the city, again, it becomes a challenge for us. And so we're asking you for consideration that we be able to cut this back. I think you have packets that show some of the vegetation. Again, there's nothing we can do about it right now, and it gives the appearance of people not caring about their community, and we want to try and change that. So thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Any questions? Anybody else want to speak in favor of the bill? Anybody want to voice any opposition to the bill? Questions from the committee on the bill?
Mr. Chairman.
Yep, Senator Hanger.
Sharon, Senator Locke, I see Planning District 23, and I think that would be fine. Then the population of at least 75,000, where did that come from? Or what is that intended to address?
Thank you for the question, sir. Again, the perspective is this being an urban area, and so we're trying to make sure that rural areas don't feel that we are infringing upon their rights with respect to vegetation. So we're trying to just kind of narrow it as a local option for communities that are 75,000 or higher.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Senator
Hanger. I see that as it happens. I represent 2 agricultural areas, and I see there is a provision where you exempt farmland from this requirement, but the 2 leading agricultural counties in the state have populations over 75,000. So I was wondering if that was something that would, if we were to change that or remove that provision, whether that would hurt your intent here. Or you want to just confine this to Planning District 23?
I think.
Yeah.
Senator, my name is Mary Bunting. I'm the city manager of Hampton. We had previously come to the committee in the past looking for local option for the entire state, and we were not successful. So that is why we narrowed it this year. Our primary interest is in the urban localities being able to address it. So if, for instance, the concern was 75,000, limiting it to our region would be sufficient. It would allow Hampton to be able to proceed. Okay. Frankly, we're not opposed to any locality having the authority that seeks it. It's just that because the broader statewide bill was not received favorably by the committee, we tried this year to narrow it.
Okay.
Got an amendment, Senator Hanger?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we strike the provision of population of at least 75,000. It would abstain to just Planning District 23.
All right. We have a second to the amendment?
I'll second that. I'll second that.
All right. We don't need a recorded vote on that. So all in favor of the amendment as voiced by Senator Hanger, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
We have one? Okay. All right. The bill is amended. Any other action on the bill?
Move report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Bill is to the motion is to report the bill as amended and properly seconded. We will open the vote. All right, bill passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Locke.
I now have Senate Bill 198. This bill allows any locality by ordinance to prohibit the distribution, sale, or offer for sale of disposable plastic shopping bags.
Senator Locke, I think we've taken that one by for the day. I think we took all the plastic by for the day.
What, no plastic?
Not today.
Oh,
Not today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm done.
Okay. Thank you. Who else do we have here? Okay, are we down to committee members? All right, let's go through and see who's here. Senator Favola, yours has gone by for the day. Yeah, we've got those by for the day. That's right. That's right. That's right.
You don't want to revisit it all.
No, 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 no. I'm looking to see who we have here. We're running low.
I got a couple if you want.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. We do have a couple of housekeeping bills, and then we do have Senator Hangers here. Housekeeping. At the request of the patrons, Senate Bill 100, Senator Marsden's bill, he asked that be stricken, and so I would so move. Is there a second? Second. All right, we have to vote on that, so we'll open the roll. All right, Senate Bill 100 is stricken at the request of the patron. And also, I've received a request from Senator Survell. His Senate Bill 638 about affordable housing was not in the block by which we passed by till the next meeting, and so I would so move that we pass that by until the next meeting.
Second.
All right, and that's just a voice vote, so all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. That one's gone by. And so now I think, Senator Hanger, we've got you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I have Senate Bill 588 first, if want me to speak to that one.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 588 deals with a subject that many of us have looked at in the past, which would equalize taxing authority for counties, the same as cities and towns. And I would note, Mr. Chairman, as a begin, I think Senator Favola has an effort in this area as well. And I've been working with Senator Watts, the new chairman of the House Finance Committee, to try to come up with satisfactory legislation. The bill, as it's in front of you, is fairly simple. It probably, when it finishes, it will not be so simple because there are a lot of things that it touches on. And I would recommend, Mr. Chairman, if conceptually the committee favors the concept of equalizing taxing authority, that we sent it to reported Senate Finance Committee, and I would simply park it there till Senator Favola's bill arrives, and we can work on them together.
Which is going to finance directly.
With that, Mr. Chairman, the concept is simple. One in the past, one of the impediments because you're looking about tobacco tax, which in the past we viewed as problematic in terms of how you're going to go about that. Currently, only 2 localities, Fairfax and Arlington, have been granted that authority. My opinion, it's a fairness issue that will allow localities, counties specifically, to expand their taxing base to take a little bit of the pressure off of real estate, which is basically where they have to look right now. The issues that have to be addressed, obviously you're talking about tobacco tax, admissions, lodging, meals tax are the primary taxes that you're talking about. But there are lots of bills, statutes that we passed in the past that limit, in some instances, that grant certain localities the ability. Certain referendums have already been passed, so you have to sort that out. I would think at a minimum we're going to have a delayed enactment clause, and this bill contemplates in an enactment clause setting up a study group to make recommendations on how we implement some of it. But that's essentially the concept, Mr. Chairman. I've been working with some of the tobacco companies, and as you know, their world is changing now, as particularly notably Altria with Philip Morris, which has a strong presence here in Virginia, in that they are changing their marketing strategies. So we have to be sensitive, I guess, if you will, to the level of taxation that we would apply. So from my standpoint, and I don't know where Senator Favola is on this, I've discussed this with Delegate Watts, and I've briefly talked to our incoming finance chair, Senator Howe, about this bill. But I would think we would probably want to have caps, if you will, or maximum amounts that localities could impose. But that's something to be sorted out, I believe, in the Finance Committee.
And you are correct, as you probably already know. The magic letter appeared last night requesting that if we do disgorge this, that it go to finance, where I'm sure you'll look out after it. So, anybody have any questions for Senator Hanger? Questions? Well, let's see if anybody wants to speak in support of the bill. Joe.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Joe Lurch with the Virginia Association of Counties, speaking in support of this bill. And just to let you know that we're going to be working with all 3 patrons on some of the issues that Senator Hanger talked about. You know, Counties provide the same core services that cities and towns do, and as the senator correctly pointed out, it's an issue of fairness. Thank you.
Next.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Eric Johnson, Director of the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. The administration supports this bill. Same reasons mentioned by the patron in terms of equal taxing authority, same levels of service required by counties and cities and towns across the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, David Blunt with the Thomas Jefferson Planning District, and on behalf of the counties in our region, which includes Albemarle, Greene, Louisa, Fluvanna, and Nelson, we support this bill. This has been a long-standing priority for the counties in our region, and appreciate Senator Hanger trying to move it forward.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Favola.
Just a point of information. The reason my bill went directly to finance is my bill, I had the similar bill to Senator Hanger's last year. This year I took a new approach with the help of the Virginia Association of Counties. We identified the specific excise taxes that we would like the counties to enjoy the same authority with the cities. So because I went to different sections of the code, mine went directly to finance.
Yours is already there then. Okay.
Mine's already there. Yeah, I'm looking forward to a robust conversation. But I will second the motion that my colleague Senator McPike made to report this out and re-refer to Senate Finance.
Do we have a second? Second. From the finance chair, no less. All right, we have a motion duly made and seconded that we report the bill and refer it to finance. We'll open the roll. Okay, the bill passes and off to finance.
Okay.
We have another, I believe,
Thank you,
Senator
Mr. Chairman. I have Senate Bill 589, which deals with zoning notices. And this one is a fairly simple bill, but it may need an amendment to make it palatable to some. It was suggested to me over the weekend that with the language that we currently have here, that it may apply to more people as far as sending out notices than was envisioned. So I would certainly be amenable to limiting that, but I really don't think the way it's drawn that it would impose too big of an impediment. Here's the essence of the legislation. There was a situation where zoning administrators have some discretion in reviewing previous decisions and can make certain decisions internally without public notice. There was a situation where a good company was coming in which was going to plan to open a factory and process water. So they were going to be withdrawing a lot of groundwater. Now that had been done in the past, but probably not at the scale that was being proposed. There was also an incentive grant that was proposed from the state, actually. The problem was that this property had been lying dormant for quite some time, and the adjacent property owners were not informed that anything was going on until it was too late to do anything about it, just to be informed. And I would be quick to point out that everything was done properly under current code. There was no requirement for notice, but what this would envision is that when there is that type of decision by the zoning administrator, that the immediately adjacent property owners be notified in a timely manner so that at least there would be notice there. And that's the essence of it. The bill as it's drafted says it would be the agent or occupants of abutting property and property immediately across the street or road from the property affected. I thought that would be fairly limiting, but if we want to limit the number of notices to go out to those in closest proximity with, say, 5 notices, I wouldn't have a problem with that if that is the concern that some would have. But that's the essence of the legislation, Mr. Chairman. It would simply provide notification to property owners when something like this is anticipated, where the zoning administrator has the ability to make a decision internally, which otherwise would not require public notice.
Anybody here to speak in favor of Senator Hanger's bill? Anybody speak in opposition to Senator Hanger's bill? Oh, you've got one, Senator Hanger.
Let me say at the outset, I'm not here to speak in opposition.
Okay.
But we very quickly, in becoming aware of the bill, if we look at a large planning department, We have one that notified us, they had 375 determination letters last year to property owners. If this includes notifying all adjoining property owners, you can see there's thousands of additional letters that would have to be generated. And so we want to work with the senator. You identified that there may be some narrowing, and we want to work with the senator on that. Also, the definition of across the street, we think that we could tighten that up a little bit because that gets a little fuzzy. And with GIS, maybe a radius definition can actually lock things down a lot more clearly for the administering agency. But we look forward to working with the senator going forward. We're not opposed to the bill.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, Senator Favola.
I have a question, maybe the patron or a zoning administrator. I don't know, I'm just remembering from local government, a zoning administrator can get requests that cross many subject areas within land use. But there are some areas that are very important to nearby neighbors. So I'm just wondering if you're working on an amendment, the zoning administrator, I'm sure that copy of his response to request for a rezoning decision or, I mean, there are some major areas that a zoning administrator works in, and then there's some I would consider minor areas. And that's what you're trying to identify.
That is some of the clarification that we're referring to. If it's just a zoning determination letter that a landowner needs to take to the bank in order to complete some business, and it has no impact on the adjoining property, we want to make sure those aren't included. And that's what gets you to the real large numbers of notifications. If it's an interpretation of the zoning ordinance that can have an impact on what goes on the property, we understand that one completely.
So, Mr. Chairman, am I to understand that there will be a floor amendment, or are you expecting some additional clarification at this point?
Mr. Chairman, and actually, Mr. Dix has stepped forward, I think, with along that same line of the last question, perhaps, he was going to speak to. I'm fine if you want me to work with the stakeholders with a floor amendment, or if you want to hold it to another meeting for us to work on. Either way you would want to go, if you want to.
Let's hear what Mr. Dick's exact observation is.
Thank you. Good morning, Chip Dix on behalf of the Realtors. And what I suggested, Senator Hanger, was that we make these determinations, a universe of determinations that require notice, to limit those to larger type projects that would have impacts on adjacent property owners. And the small types of determinations, the hundreds of determinations get made all the time that only affect that particular property, but we could work with Senator Hanger over the week, and I would prefer that, Mr. Chairman, it would be obviously the pleasure of the committee that we do it here as opposed to the floor, but let us see if we can't get together and work on something and bring it back.
We let Senator Stewart's bill out with a promise that he would fix it on the floor, but that's also because we had 6 school children looking at us while we were.
That's right. Understand, Mr. Chairman.
So I'm like you, Mr. Dix. I would prefer to keep it in the bosom of the committee till it's ready to see the light of day. So we'll just pass it on until next week, and you guys will come back to us with a perfect product.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
All right. Do we need a motion on that to pass it by for the week, or?
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Okay. All right. All right. We'll go ahead and take a vote whether we need one or not. Move. I'll second that it be carried over. Senator Hanger's bill be carried over to next week when he will appear with a perfect product for us.
Where we're going now.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. So, Senator McPike, I believe you have one in front of us.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pass Senate Bill 383 by for the week.
I believe you mentioned that to me. Sorry about that. Senator McPike would like to pass 383 by for the week, and I think we need to move on that too. So I'll move that, and Senator Howell will second it. And so by for the week. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. By for the week. Have we got any other members that have bills that are with us? Nobody? All right. I have received, through the magic of text communications from Senator Surville, his shopping cart bill, which I believe we are all familiar with. He is tied up and will be tied up indefinitely into the morning in the courts committee, as we might imagine. but he has asked me, he has some folks here who traveled to present testimony regarding the shopping cart bill. And so I certainly want to give those folks the opportunity not to have to come back here and to speak their piece. So if you are here for Senator Surville's shopping cart bill, please come up and tell us what you want us to hear. Nobody? Oh, there. Yep, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have some leave-behinds, if it's okay.
Absolutely.
Much obliged, thank you. My name is Larry Farnsworth, and I'm here with the Springfield Civic Association. We have endorsed SB 631 unanimously. We're a pretty proud community. We have new retail establishments coming in. We have new restaurants, commercial developments, and we're really expanding, and it's bringing a lot of economic vitality. But as you drive into our community, you'll see that there is a flood of shopping carts littering our streets. We had a letter that we wrote to you guys, and I sent to you, Mr. Chairman, last night, and I copied all the members of the committee. In it, I included a lot of pictures of the shopping carts that have been found in our neighborhoods. You'll see them tipped over in people's front yards, abandoned in front of their houses. They're in public school parking lots in front of the schools. That's really unsightly. So we believe that SB 631 is a perfect, and it strikes the right balance between local governments. It strikes businesses and the people that frequent those businesses and the people that those governments serve. We're strongly in favor of the addition. I know that this has been before the committee before. The Section D, where it imposes a civil penalty of up to $500. We're in favor of that as well. This is a straightforward, common sense approach, and we would ask that you guys pass this through committee so it can get to the floor and be signed into law. Thank you.
Before we go too much farther, just really quickly, I understand Senator Surville has some line amendments that he wants us to adopt, so we'll get the bill in fine form for him to do his thing next week.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there are 6 line amendments, but they're mainly doing one thing. So the first line amendment is on line 14 after the word governing. We would strike the phrase bodies of the counties of Arlington and Fairfax and insert body of any locality in Planning District 8. So changing it to any locality in Planning District 8. And then the other 5 line amendments all strike the word county and insert the word locality throughout the bill to affect that change. So that's on lines 15, 16, 19, 22, and 27.
All right, we have a suite of amendments in front of us proposed by Senator Surville to his bill. Is there a motion on those amendments? And a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the amendments say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. So the bill is amended. Is there anybody else who wants to speak in favor of the bill? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm Pat Carroll from Arlington. Our county board would very much like the opportunity to pass this ordinance. It may be that if we have the opportunity, that's all we need in order to work with the various companies that have these rogue shopping carts showing up in neighborhoods. So we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Anybody else to speak in favor? If anybody traveled here to speak in opposition to the bill, they can certainly do that now. If people are being paid to be here and will be here next week, they can speak in opposition next week, and we'll move on to other things. Okay? All right, so appreciate you coming up. We'll take it up next week on the docket when Senator Surville can be here again. He's across the street and deep in the throes of it, and so cannot be with us today.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Senator McPike.
Thank you. I yield to Senator Bell.
Oh, sorry.
I thank the senator for yielding. Mr. Chairman, my understanding is we also have people on SB 349, which we went by for the day on, and there's representatives from Chesapeake who would like to speak. They won't be able to be here next week if you could so accommodate them.
Oh, sure, absolutely. And let me first really quick, you all can come on up, and I just want to let everybody know Senator Lucas has requested while we were here that Senate Bill 349 go by for the week. And so I would so move, and Senator Howell would second, and all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Bye for the week. And now we'll hear some of the folks visiting on 349. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jay Stroman. I'm the city attorney for the city of Chesapeake, and I'm here to ask for the committee's support for SB 349. And just to tell you a little bit about it, this bill would expand the current law as set forth in Section 15.2-1517 to allow localities like the city of Chesapeake to provide health, life, and accident insurance to members of retired employees of city commissions, agencies, and authorities. That, of course, would be applicable to counties as well, to municipal organizations. We have some very hardworking employees who we really think deserve this opportunity to have the same benefits that city employees have with their retire, for example, our Mosquito Control Commission, for one. And we would just very much appreciate the committee's favorable consideration of this amendment. Thank you.
Any questions while we have it? No questions? All right, so we'll take that bill up. Thank you for coming. We'll take that bill up next week when Senator Lucas can be here as well. Do we have anything else? I think we've blown through everything. So this is the first of 4 of our meetings. We've got 4 meetings before crossover. As you can tell, our human nature, the tendency to kick the can down the road, results in fat dockets towards the end of the session. So, and I'm guilty of that as well with other committees. So, we're going to do plastic bags, as you might have gleaned. We're going to do them all at one time, and we're also going to have all our charters all at one time. If there's a charter that has any controversy associated around it, we will likely take that up. We may take that up separately, but that's the plan at the moment. Not planning on doing any subcommittees. We have probably a bill or 2 regarding monuments that will generate some heat and interest, but we're planning right now to do them through the full committee. So with that, we are adjourned.